everybody. How's everybody doing? Yeah. Thank you guys so much for coming. We're really excited about this. It's been being planned for a little while. We are very excited. The Feel Something Foundation is something that I started a couple years back. We've been slowly, steadily building up some momentum and pairing with pre-existing organizations that we're very excited about working with. And as you guys know, it's LGBTQ plus focused. And today's the big day. Here we go. I want to thank you guys for being here. This is a safe space, so you guys can chuckle and laugh and cry and fart and whatever you want to do. And I want to say thank you, first of all, to the Hotel Ziggy. They've been incredible. They've been supporting us very generously with this event. I want to acknowledge the joint efforts between our teams at BMG, at Music Cares. Yes. And at the Feel Something Foundation. I want to say thank you very much to Joey Gray, our director. And a thank you to Gabriel Rocha, who's helped also put this thing together. And I'd like to introduce and thank our panelists. I'll thank you at the end, too, I think. That'll be good, yeah. And now. I'll do a lot of thanking.
We'll do a lot of thanking.
Janok Vance, say hello.
Hello.
Kris Munoz. Brittany Campbell.
Brittany.
And the incredibly talented, so talented it makes my toes curl, Vincent. So this event is the latest in an ongoing endeavor to advocate on behalf of queer artists. During the pandemic on Zoom, we started with a round table. And it was on Zoom and it was during the pandemic, so it was kind of odd, but it was a way to get the seed planted and get this conversation off to a start. After that, we did a brunch at my home, which is when we brought in Music Cares, which was a very exciting development. And now, this evening, we've invited industry executives to join the conversation, as that we're adding the business aspect of music to this all-important dialogue. So it's been an unusual last few years, from the vitriol of former president to our collective experience of the global pandemic. It's been fucking weird. But the power and resilience of the queer community to come together and lead the way in dark times is unparalleled. At this very moment, as many of you know, there are more than 400 anti-LGBTQ plus bills that have been introduced in state legislatures across the country. That number has more than doubled in just the last year alone. Whether they're targeting education with Don't Say Gay, healthcare and bans on gender-affirming services, or criminalizing our age-old art form by banning drag performances, these measures are vicious, they're discriminatory, they're ignorant, and they're just fucking wrong.
Yep. That's wrong.
As artists, people look to us to set trends and take the lead. Music heals. As light bringers, we are the source for so many. We ignite romance, joy, movement, and catharsis. But who heals the healers? As many of you know, May is Mental Health Awareness Month. So that is the focus of our panel today. We've got big obstacles ahead of us now, so let's keep moving forward together. Starting here tonight, let's talk about it. Let's dig in and be honest about our experiences and find ways we can care for one another and help ensure that we have the support and resources that we need to keep fighting for progress and for music. We want you to enjoy yourselves here this evening. We want you to have a couple drinks if you haven't already. Let your guard down, check in with yourself, and really think about the practice and importance of mental health in your own life. And with that said, let's get to it. Yeah. Okay, good. I got that part over. As you've met everybody, I want to go down the line one by one and have each of our panelists quickly introduce themselves to you all and where they're affiliated with. So let's start just on the end and work our way down.
Oh, great. Yeah. Are we on? Am I live? Okay. Hey, sorry about that.
So I'm Kris Munoz, Senior Vice President, Business and Legal Affairs at BMG. I am excited to be here and be a part of this wonderful evening. And thank you, Adam, BMG, Music Cares, and our performers and artists here, because we are here to spread the word, support each other, and let everybody know that it's everything is okay. We are here to express ourselves, be authentic, and I'm just grateful to be here, and I appreciate it, Adam and Gabriel and Joey and everybody else. Thank you.
Your title out-trumped mine, so great. My name is Vincent. I'm an artist. I'm a singer-songwriter, and I am very excited to talk about my experience with mental health and making my way through this industry and working with Music Cares and what that means and how it has helped me. So, yeah.
Hello. I'm Janak Vance. I am actually the Managing Director of Mental Health and Addiction Recovery for Music Cares. Goodness, this is like a love language to be able to have this conversation and merge both of my careers as an expert in psychology, as well as also being a performing artist as well. So having this conversation is beyond necessary. And I hope that you all, I know we want to create a safe space for people, but just know that this is a night for you to be self-empowered. And I'm just grateful to Adam for even bringing this about and making this tangible. So welcome and thank you for having me here.
Hey everybody, I'm Brittany Campbell. I'm a multidisciplinary artist. I'm a songwriter who's signed with Facet House / Warner Chappell. Shameless plug, my most recent work can be seen on Grease Rise of the Pink Ladies. Watch it.
Yes.
Watch the show. And yeah, I'm just happy to be here. I also have a solo act, and yeah, I'm just happy to be a part of it.
Awesome. Nice. And her boots are dope.
My brother got these for me.
Love these.
Crazy.
And I'm Adam. I'm a screaming clown. I like long walks on the beach and expensive tequila. No, I you guys know who I am. I think I sing and I shop too much and to be serious. When I started the Feel Something Foundation, what I realized was after about 10, 11 years in the business, being asked so much by the media and by fans about what it was to be gay and to have this identity and to stand up for it and to be unapologetic and to fight the good fight, I realized that I really wanted to take it to the next level and sort of do more than just talk about it. I really wanted to put it into action. I do think visibility and talking about it are definitely big first steps. The ripple effects that we can have as celebrities on the greater society are incredible. I've had people come up to me over the last couple years, actually, when I go out or if I'm at events, younger people who are now old enough to be in the bar and be adults at these events, who were children when I was on TV for the first time, and say things to me like, oh, it was crazy. I sat there and watched you with my mom or my dad, and you were the first gay person that we talked about together. And the fact that that kind of visibility can facilitate these big life moments and these opportunities to affirm who you are, I think it's amazing. And so that was sort of the seed was planted for me when I got off of American Idol and realized that this was going to be how it was. And I was going to be sort of having to talk about this a lot. I at first I wasn't sure exactly how I felt about it, but I very quickly was like, you know what, this is a great opportunity. And because if I had that when I was a kid, it would have saved me from an awful lot of guessing and struggle. And I had it easy. So I'm really happy to be passing the buck and to be doing this type of work. And I'm really excited for these questions we're going to start getting into. Yeah. This is going to be like therapy, you guys.
Therapy tonight.
So first of all, we're gonna get into sort of the real talk, the challenges. There's a lot to unpack here. And by the way, at the end of this discussion, I am going to open it up to the floor. So if you guys have anything in mind, take some mental notes, and we will definitely get to you. First of all, I want to just ask, what does mental health wellness mean to each of you? Or to any of you, whichever one wants to answer it.
I'll start. In this moment, mental health awareness means constantly choosing to, especially as an artist, choosing to speak to yourself with kindness. For me, mental health wellness looks like the gym, it looks like therapy, it looks like walks, it looks like a healthy dose of escapism, playing lots of video games, you know. And yeah, just like learning how to really invest in self-love, which is something I've learned later. So, yeah.
I love that.
For me, okay. It's so funny. I sing in front of people all the time, and talking is so strange. Here we go. For me, it means teaching, and I think teaching myself boundaries and teaching others how to treat me and how to respect me and how to love me. And so mental health and wellness for me means being so good with me first before I step out of my door that I can make it through the day.
Yeah, I'll jump on that. I think stemming off that, it's truly putting yourself ahead of everybody else, even though you don't. You know, I'm a pleaser. I'm a doer. I'm a worker. And there's times in life when, and especially in this job, it's very demanding, very stressful, very rewarding at the same time. It's a challenge. It's a big challenge. But, you know, with that, you have to have a mindset that's healthy, that reminds you that, you know, I feel blessed that I'm even sitting up here, that I am even able to do what I do. But I have to check myself many times a day because you can run wild trying to take care of everybody else but yourself. So for me, it's really trying to always bring it back, and it's very difficult, and I'm in the middle of that right now. But, you know, that's what life is. You know, we learn to see where we need to focus on, and a lot of times we want to run from that. So the escapism is very nice sometimes.
I think I could probably echo all of this, but also thank you for that transparency. Just letting us know where you currently are. For me, mental wellness, mental health is really embodying my whole person. The good, the bad, the in-between, the gray. I'm learning, even as a professional, that you really have to do a lot of internal work to be able to be effective externally. And so for me, tapping into myself, we talk about self-love, and I think it's a great message, but how do we get there? And so I'm learning that means self-intimacy. So for me, mental wellness is being self-intimate, so I can be healthily effective to the people that I love and the new people that I'm meeting as well. So again, that means tapping in as a whole person and embracing it all so I can embrace those that are in front of me. Does that make sense?
I think the thing that I learned over the last couple of years, right before the pandemic and especially during it, is also sort of demystifying and stigmatizing what mental health issues are and how they affect us and what diagnosis that you can give yourself or a doctor will give you. I think I didn't realize that I was dealing with like a real heavy dose of anxiety until I was in the throes of, you know, getting panic attacks and going, oh, this is anxiety. Okay. And it's always been there, but I didn't know what to call it. And I didn't really realize that that's what it was until it hit me over the head. So I think it's like, education is big, and like you said, teaching and talking about it and just getting it out in the open and not being afraid to be an open book about it. I think that's is real leadership that we can provide, you know? So the next question I have is how does the current political social climate, which we know is fucked. Yeah. There's a lot of crap going on right now, as we know. It is. We know it's we're not going to get into what it is. I mean, we know what's going on with, the far right and all these horrible things. But the question is for the artists, how does it impact you, your personal life, your career, and your motivation to go forward? And then for those of us that aren't artists up here, how does it affect your support for queer artists? Hit it.
It makes me think of 2020 when sort of everything stopped. And I was able to create art that was very politically charged and laced with activism. And I felt a lot of purpose in that and a lot of motivation behind that. And then in 2021, I was sort of called to be in this space where I was making music that was more so geared toward the numbers of things and more towards the entertainment value of things. And it took me a while to sort of reconcile all of that and figure out how I needed to operate in this space. And a big thing for me was learning how to set boundaries for myself, like really realizing that it's okay to not say yes to every project that comes your way. Like you have to learn to do that so that I can always be in the room with a full cup. So since that time, I've really had to have conversations with myself about whether or not I truly felt aligned with the work that I'm doing. And I'm still, I'm a work in progress, and it's happening right now. It's happening right now.
It's case by case,
yes,
right? I mean, it's like
case.
You can feel one way about one thing one day, and it changes the next day depending on what you're presented with. Yeah.
The question was the effect it has on our...
Yeah, I mean, are any of you scared?
Yeah.
Because it kind of scares me.
I can give you a prime example. I opened for an artist, Max, who is an ally last year. And at a show in Ohio, the Proud Boys came and stood in the audience. And it was one of those things where never in my life had I been confronted with something like that, where I was the only gay act on the tour. They were in the room. They were there to intimidate and make people afraid. And it was the first time that I had seen it in person, what people like this do. But I think it's scary. And if you're not, I'm from North Philly, so white men in masks don't really do anything to me. Y'all just stand looking stupid. But the overall idea is that this is going to keep happening because it does intimidate people and it does hurt them. And the venue even was afraid to keep going with the show. And so that hurts artists financially. I've had shows been canceled because we've had Proud Boys be like, we're going to come to this show and we're going to stand outside and we're going to picket this venue for the next few days before you get here. And it's it takes a direct hit on these artists, especially because I'm independent and I don't have a label to be like, okay, cool, we can find another venue tomorrow, And while it is tough and scary, I think it's our job to stand up to these people and let them know, you're not going to get away with this shit. You're running around in a mask.
And it's the people that we're working with, the allies, these organizations. Quit being wimps about it, you have to choose which side of this you're on and do what's right, not just what's financially sound, and there's been so many examples lately. We were talking about that upstairs. It's just the Bud Light and the Dodger. It's what side of this do you want to be on when we all look back? Do you want to look like you have no backbone, or do you want to stand up for something that's right? And the therapy session.
I'm saying. And then they want to call themselves humanitarians.
Yeah. Right.
I'm like, how are you a humanitarian? And if you are completely disregarding this group of human beings, that doesn't make sense. Then what are you a humanitarian to? All this, I'm a philanthropist and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, I kind of call bullshit. Probably not, being that you're sitting here publicly saying why we shouldn't support this group of beautiful people. Yeah. It just doesn't make sense, but we'll still support the other crap. It is. It's all about money. I guess to answer how it does affect the non-artist in this, because I work for such a dynamic organization, Music Cares again, I kind of think it's twofold, and I have some of my colleagues in the audience right now that could possibly agree or even expand on it at some point in private conversations. I want to say the pro. I try to always find the pro in some things, even in the darkest hours, right? Is that it does allow us to have a platform to be able to help, because you were speaking about how when these horrid things happen, it affects your pockets, right? That's your money, that's your income. And so Music Cares is helping provide the income. Where people are taking money away from you, we're a place where you can come and say, hey, I need help. This gig was taken away from me because these idiots, decided to go out there and take this away from me because of their standpoint. And so you get to come to Music Cares and say, hey, I need help financially with my bills are behind now, right? So we have these 3 areas in our team, which we call HHS, and it's human services, health services, and mental health services. So we already know with the whole political standpoint, it's affected our healthcare system. We're all suffering when it comes to healthcare. And even if you do have insurance, really, what is it covering? How much of it is it covering, right? How much of your mental health is it covering? You're still having to come out of pocket. And even when it comes to, surgeries that you may have, you still may have to come out of pocket for getting emergency care, for your medication and all that stuff. So anyway, Music Cares decided that, hey, we're going to make sure that we're taking care of our family, our community, and not discriminate in that. Okay? I'm like, absolutely. There are some qualifications, but guess what the qualification is? That you are a music industry professional, right? Not that you are straight, not that you are black, not that you are white. It's literally, you come here, this is your family, you need financial help, we got your back. So but the con is, why should you have to do that? Right? Why should you have to do that? Because of these political standpoints. So that's where that duality comes in.
I mean, I'm still learning about Music Cares, and everything I learn, I'm
too,
like,
still
damn,
growing.
Yeah, it's so good, it's amazing. I mean, Vincent, didn't you also have some other involvement with Music Cares before?
3 years ago, I don't know if Music Cares in therapy. It's changed my life and saved my life in so many ways. And before, during the pandemic, it was really tough. And I don't know about you guys. For any of the musicians, we bottle up a lot of things, because we're told to push through. It's what I was taught in college. I went to a conservatory, and it was like, hi, you need to be really good, and it doesn't matter if you cry at night. Be good in the morning. And I got really good at doing that. And like everyone else here during the pandemic, I fell apart. I lost a lot of family, and I didn't know what to do. And a friend of mine, Brandon Colbain, who's another amazing songwriter in the LGBTQ community here in LA, was like, hi, Music Cares offers therapy, and you can go and see a therapist. And I was like, girl, I'm poor. There's nothing happening. I don't have any money for that. And he was like, no, it's free. You just have to ask. And I think I sent an email on Monday, and by Wednesday I was in a session and it was incredible, and covered 15 of those sessions, and it completely changed and saved my life, because I can speak from my community, the Black community. Therapy was never a question in my house. It was, what happens in this house stays in this house, and we'll figure it out between us. And it is one of the most toxic teachings, but it's what we know, because we're safe with each other, and that's why we do what we do. And there was something so beautiful about being able to sit into a room and not having to be strong all the time, and then going and being strong in the thing that I love to do, that really saved my life and pushed it forward. So yeah, that was my connection with Music Cares, and you're great job, guys. You're great.
What a blessing. It's an honor. Though that's the thing. We get honored and blessed by being able to be part of your community. I think being able to be connected to people, it's a blessing. That's why I don't understand the division when it comes to people.
Here.
It is.
People
it really,
are afraid.
really is. They're very afraid.
I find that really interesting, because I think that, we're, as queer people, we start with a baseline of trauma and a baggage that, comes with growing up queer, whether you come out early or not, whatever your relationship is with your family, with yourself, and being queer, if you're dealing with shame, if you're dealing with a number of different things. So coming into the music industry as a professional, when you make it your career, as many of you know, it's a lot of pressure. It's a big thing to jump into. And it's, I've explained this to people before. It's, if you're in the arts in other forms, you're in theater or the film industry or TV, some of these issues are the same. But what happens is you're working as an ensemble in most of those mediums. When you're in music, most of us are solo acts, or, it's all on your name. It's your identity. You're selling yourself. You are the product. And I think that has a lot of detrimental effects on our mental health. It's a lot of pressure, and it's confusing because it's very difficult to draw a line between your own integrity and your own personal life and reality versus who you are as a brand. And no one really teaches you where to draw that line. I think going into this conversation, being in the music industry in itself is hard. And then if you add on the lens of being queer in the music industry, it is like double, it's a whole other layer. So that's kind of the point of a lot of what we're doing today is figuring out that intersection, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to jump off that because, and jump off what Vincent said, and thank you so much for being so transparent and authentic, which I learned who you are earlier. But yeah, I think, I've come from a Hispanic background. You would never know it, right? I mean, am I? I don't know. But, we were in the same mindset. You don't talk about that. Like, no. Luckily, I had a really great mom who, though she kept herself in fear by her generational upbringing and socioeconomic, environment, allowed me to just be me, and I was a wild one. So, and I didn't know what I was doing about my sexuality and I just thought, it is what it is. You're just like boys, but I didn't really know why I liked girls. And didn't understand it. So in as you grow up, you learn to just like figure out, well, is that safe? I mean, my God. I mean, I would never imagine telling my dad. He's in double military, like Chief Master Sergeant, by the book. And, you take that in and you grow. As you grow, you don't grow. Because you're internalizing, you're worried about what people are going to say, and this was a while ago. It's different now. I'm not generalizing that people have it better today, but it was very, very a lot different. Me coming up back in the day, so it's just being able to be authentic to yourself, and once you get to that place and see that there's this whole world of us. We're like the most beautiful, creative, inspiring, awesome, generous, kind, kick-ass people. And yeah, I mean, we are. And we get marginalized. And for what? For being human?
What is your relationship to the industry been like, being on the other side of it? And we can talk about what it's like being an artist, but being in the label system and being queer, how is that reality?
So interesting enough, so I learned early on, I'd be at events and, people just assumed I was straight. They just made assumptions all the time. And it was tough because this was a while ago. I mean, I got out of law school and a long time ago. Let's just say like 20 years ago. And it was very different. And it was like, well, everybody around me was straight. I mean, we had our, I don't want to say token because that's a terrible word, but as in high school too, you had, that person's gay. That person, like, there wasn't very many. And then when you get in the business, I'm talking 21 years ago, it still wasn't, very prevalent. We had all our artists and everybody coming out as time went on, but it was tough. And I just had to learn to just be honest. I was going to be anyway, but and then I realized, I wasn't afraid more so than it's just shitty. It's like you you make assumptions about me because of my visual. You think my last name, which is Munoz, I'm married to a Hispanic man, right? That's where'd you get that last name? Well, I'm also not on your team anymore. I am, but it was tough. It was tough. I'll tell you that. I think as time has evolved and years have passed, and I've been involved in a lot of advocacy with the city of West Hollywood, and even at BMG, we've got a lot going on. We've got the international level with Bertelsmann and Be Queer. We've got our localized levels of LGBTQIA plus groups and events. I think it's a much better world we're in, even though we're fighting still. Everything we're fighting, it's time to be able to just share your story. It's way more embraced, and know that there's support. This is a perfect example. So it was tough at first, and I had enough friends of mine, and it was like, oh, those girls. That's her. They're the ones. Yeah, that's how it was.
Wow. I think, we know, all of us, that the industry has changed really rapidly. I mean, I think when I came onto the music industry in 2009, when I was on TV, it was so different coming off of that show and getting signed to a label. It was just like, it was no man's land. Like, they were doing like the contemporary pop thing, the radio circuit. Like, there were no gay men in the States, especially. And so it was definitely like a guessing game and a bit of a like an obstacle course. But as we all know, that has rapidly changed, which is amazing. I think for the longest time, the attitude was, in the entertainment industry in general, the attitude was sort of like, well, it's not good for business, right? Because you're not going to appeal to as many people, or you're going to alienate a certain part of your fan base. Or what do you guys think? What is your experience with that? What do you, how does that apply to where you are today? And do you think that still exists? Is that still an issue? How can we get better at it? Like, what is it's a big question, but I think it still exists. It's better, but what is it,
I think I can speak from an independent artist standpoint, because Facet House is so LGBTQ and so inclusive. I found my agent, Corey Christopher Martin, over at Wasserman 5 years ago, and when I walked in the door, the first thing that I said to her, I was like, I'm gay, and if that doesn't work for you, then I shouldn't stay here any longer. Because I learned from a young age, if I want to be comfortable, I have to build an infrastructure around me that looks, feels, and accepts who I am at all avenues. And while that is difficult to do and scary, it has helped me maneuver through all this, because I've gone to label meetings, I've gone to AWOL, I've gone to Warner, I've done these things and sat with these people and sat in meetings and been so disheartened by the things they have to say, because their idea of gay is Lil Nas X. And while Lil Nas X is incredible, there are different artists in the world. And when you see me walk in the room, the first thing you think when you are on a label is black, gay. They must rap. And it's just, I can't rap to save my life. Like, it's never been my journey. It's never been my goal. But she can sing the house down boots.
Yes, she
can. That's my thing. But when you sit in these meetings, they don't see us as valuables. Or it's very much, when Pride comes, we can do something. Right. We have an event. We'd love to have you in the parking lot. Right. It's a great stage. The sound is great. But we were talking about this upstairs with brands and how they work with us, and it's like, June's coming. Yeah. And you're probably going to see me somewhere. And then in July, you're going to forget that I exist. And it's not for lack of trying on our part. It's just, you have to build an infrastructure of a team, or in your team, that pushes you beyond that. So when we were just talking about brands upstairs, in contracts now, we have them extended past June, whether it be 2 or 3 months, and whether it's the same pay or not, we have to have it in there where it's like, you have to see us past this. Because if you don't, no one else will. You have the power, the platform, and the money. And so it's talking and making sure that you have just the team that really, really is like, cool, we're going to do this. And it's going to be hard, but it's going to be worth it if we actually put our foot down and stand in it, you know?
Yeah. It's like, I always say, it's like, don't hate the player, hate the game. I always love that expression, because it's so difficult that you know, you can point a finger at one executive and, oh, they don't get it. Oh, what the fuck does this guy know? But the problem is that it's actually the public. The problem starts with the public. The business is, you know, screwed up, but they're just trying to sell things to these people, and it's the ignorance in the public that actually drives the ignorance behind the scenes, I think. And it's really, it's like, where do you start? You know, it's difficult. It's very difficult, but this is a start. This is it. I'll get to another question now, I think. I mean, what's great is that we're weaving around a lot of the stuff that's on this paper, so it's getting very organic, which is fun. Now I have to decide what I actually have to ask. I think going along with our experiences with the industry, I mean, that said a lot, because it's very true. There's also fans, right? This is a whole other part of being an artist and being a public figure. You deal with your industry, that's behind the scenes. A lot of fans don't know what's going on behind the scenes, so they sit there and they have questions and they think that they know more, and they don't. They don't understand all the red tape that exists and all the politics. But they're also wonderful. We all love our fans. If we didn't have fans, we wouldn't be doing it, you know? So the question that I have is, you know, what is your relationship like with your fan base? How does that help you as an artist and help you with your queer identity as an artist? And how possibly does it hinder that? How does it get in the way?
My personality is very troll-like, so I'm ready for trolls to enter the landscape at all times. At all times, I'm ready for the trolls to come a calling.
You like a clap back?
I love a clap back. I don't take it too personally.
It can be fun.
It can be
fun.
It can be
does feel good.
hours,
You're like,
hours
oh.
of fun.
Yeah.
Hours of fun. You know, just tap into your inner villain. Yeah, so in terms of like the music that I create on a solo level, I usually don't take it too personally. But I will say, with this Grace stuff, there have been people coming out of, because everybody has a relationship with the musical, right? And this TV show, people are watching it, and you know, there are LGBTQ++ characters in the mix. Episode 5, we wrote a lesbian love duet. And when I tell you woohoo. And when I tell you these people were coming.
It's okay, say it.
These people were coming out of the woodwork. So like, when I researched who's writing for Grease, I knew it had to be someone who's woke and someone of color. And then I find out you're queer, and you know, all that sort of backlash. And you know,
What about the children? So tired of that.
But when you get DMs like that, I go, we're doing it right, baby. Yeah. We're doing it right. Yeah. You know, I know so many people are sitting at home watching that and finally feel seen, especially in spaces where they're not usually seen. What a celebration. Yeah. Congratulations to all of us. Like, you know.
And you're right. So, that's why there's so much pushback right now, is because we are shining so fucking brightly, yes. And they're scared. Yeah. They're like, oh my God, my kid might catch it. Oh my God, it's contagious. I mean, it's, yeah.
So I'm a student of the School of Beyonce and have attended for way too long. But I used to follow the Matthew Knowles technique, where you don't say anything. You smile and it's media training. It's really great. And then I did a TV show, and that's apparently how I was born and started doing music that day. I sang Creep and I was born. And but it was the first time I had been opened up to the public and opened up for like scrutiny, and I had never had that before. But like, also like you, I love to troll. Nothing brings me more joy than a read. And so I try to be now I have noticed that it's gotten a lot crazier. Like I just did this interview about drag queens and the laws that have been passing around the country with Out magazine, and some of the messages I have received have been crazy. Like a guy showed up at our house and was like, if you keep posting, we're gonna come get you. Come over here if you want. Like, I think the idea and the notion is that if they are intimidating, we'll stop, and it's just like, that's not realistic. So with my fans now, that's so weird to say, but the people that listen to my music now, it's this thing where I am just transparent now. There's no like room to just like post a pretty picture on Instagram and be like, everything's fine. So I'll get on my story and I'll be like, hey, I'm sad, or I've just started doing TikTok. Don't talk to me about TikTok. We'll talk about TikTok later. But there's no more room to be old school anymore where you don't say anything. And so with them, when they reach out and they're like, hi, I'm really sad, or I need to talk to someone, I'll hop on and I'm like, yo, let's talk. Because it means so much to someone who is living in Alabama, who looks like me and goes to school with blonde hair and gets picked on every day and made fun of, and their life is threatened. And so with fans now, I make it a priority to be accessible, because who wants to watch somebody do the thing they want to do and live the life they want to live and not be able to communicate and ask questions about that? I think that should be the idea of an artist. I went to Berkeley in Boston, and I had a really great teacher, but he taught me a really bad lesson. He would say, when you're on stage and people come into the show, it's your responsibility to take all their hurt and all their pain and leave them better. And he never gave us a roadmap on how to get better after we took all that shit in. And it is a lot. And that's what artists do. We do this sacrifice game where it's like, well, why would we, and fans do it too. It's like, well, why are you sad? You're on stage. And it's like, I know. I'm doing this so I can make you happy.
Who heals the healer?
But who's going to make me happy?
Yeah.
And so I try to be, it's a give and take game, and I'm being gentle with myself. And by doing that, I'm being gentle with the people who listen to my music too.
Yeah. I feel like it's so easy to get torn between two different things. I mean, it's easy to get torn between serving yourself and making sure you're doing self-care and looking after yourself and following your instincts and being the artist that you would love to be, that you grew up wanting to be, and following all of your hopes and dreams. And then there's playing the fucking game, because it is a game, and it is, at the heart of it is a business, as we know, and but businesses are built on commerce. It's money. So I find one of the things that's really hard on the mental health is figuring out how to balance those two things. It's like, how much do you kind of lean into one or the other? And for me personally, that has been such a struggle over the last 13 years. Has been like trying to find that sweet spot in like, staying happy and feeling, that I'm in my purpose and that I'm excited about what I'm making, and then also trying to win. And it's hard. It's the thing that you were talking about earlier, is like you were doing stuff that was based on activism and all this stuff you were really passionate about that had like a greater purpose, and then you were gigging, and then you were trying to pay the bills, and we've been talking about that. I think that takes a big toll, a really big toll. Yeah, it's hard. But here we are talking about it, and that's the first step. Let me get to another question. How do you maintain authenticity as an artist? Well, that's the question I just answered. Okay. Yeah. So it's maintaining that authenticity as an artist while you're playing the game. Like, how do you find that sweet spot? Have you? I haven't. It's day to day,
So I hate TikTok. I'm sorry if there's anyone in the room. I know you're going to be like, oh, you're so spoiled.
That's like blasphemy in a record label right now. Yeah.
Babe, the way I've sat in meetings and said that and been like, thank you so much for coming out. It's really nice to see you. And I very much did not like it when I first started it, because it felt disingenuous. There's nothing more soul killing than sitting in front of your phone and playing your song on a pot and singing along to it and hoping that someone listens and clicks it and likes it. There's nothing more soul crushing, and you're like, I wrote this song about like my heartbreak, but like, here we go. But I think what I have found my happy place in it is my team is really understanding in the idea that if I'm not happy in this, I'm probably not going to do it. And it doesn't mean that you're not great at your job, and it doesn't mean that you're not trying your best to make me into the star that you want me to be. I have to be honest with it. So on days where I'm sad, I tell people that I'm sad. And on days that I'm happy, I tell people that I'm happy. And in days that I don't want to talk to them, I tell them I don't want to talk to them. And every time there's someone who's like, no, T, I get that. Like, I understand that. And I think the idea of getting around the camera is finding out that in my head, I'm like, oh, there are thousands of little people living inside that camera who are probably having the same weird experience that I'm having today, and probably don't like how their skin looks today, or probably doesn't like how their hair looks today, or probably feels really depressed about something that happened in their lives. Talk about what you feel. And I think the algorithm is so strange in the sense that you think you have to hop on trends, when in reality, sure, that'll work. There are definitely things that are pushed forward to the forefront of the platform. I have found the creators that I care and love the most and that I'm consistently following are the people who are like, hey, I burnt my grilled cheese today. And it's because, like, my mom died last night and I don't know how to talk about that. So I'm going to talk. And I'm like, T, let's get sad. Like, let's talk to each other, because there's something honest in just being transparent. And I think a lot of artists get disheartened. Like, my best friend Nick is in a band. My friend Jared is also a musician. And we talk about this all the time, where it is soul crushing to put yourself in front of thousands and thousands of people and get nothing in response. And then your team's like, well, you got to try harder. Find ways for them to love you. And I'm like, that's not realistic. What I'm good at is talking to people sometimes if I've had too much of a juice box, or if I'm singing and if I tell the honest truth. And I think finding the balance in that is being like, cool, today's really shitty and I have 17 things to do and my publicist won't stop talking to me about this one video that I won't put in for something. I'm just going to sit in front of my phone and talk about that. Because then people are like, cool, you're having a human experience. I can relate to that. No one's going to be able to relate to me banging on a pot singing a Carly Rae Jepsen song. They're just not. No. It's not realistic. But what you can relate to me is, today I was walking down Sunset. I saw someone fall. I laughed. It was really sad. Then I went and helped them and we had a conversation. It's getting people back into the reality that they're human beings and it's not just on the phone. Yes. You know? Yes. This juice box is working miracles, girl.
I mean, I think I felt the same way about TikTok. I had some issues with it, and I found a way. All of a sudden, I was like, you know what? Let's look at this. Look at the bright side here, and try to look at what's good about it. And the one thing I walked away from is people are being creative, even though they're not maybe as amazingly creative as the artists. You know, it's, you know, there's different levels of how good it turns out to be, what the product is. But the point is that people are having fun and they're creating, and that all of a sudden it dawned on me and I was like, that is kind of cool that it's an outlet for people to just do something, you know, and make something, even if it's not, you know, even if it's shit, you know, but they're happy, but you know what, it feels good for them. So I don't know, when it kind of like a light bulb went off for me a couple months ago and I was like, oh, TikTok's kind of cool. It took me a while. I think, you know, we've been doing, this is our therapy gripe session. I think we've had, you know, we've aired out a lot of good stuff here. One other thing I wanted to talk about was, you know, as artists or even behind the scenes, what are your experiences in, okay, you're gay, but you're maybe a little too gay, or you're not enough of this kind of gay, or can you tone it down, or can you make it this? What are your experiences like with that? Because in the beginning of my career, I thought, oh, I know exactly who I am and what I want to make, and I'm very clear on it. And the amount of pushback that I got from so many different directions, just, it kind of like, it cut me off at the legs. Like, all of a sudden I was like, oh, who am I? It really took a toll on me. And it ripped my confidence out. It made me second guess everything. It gave me like a full identity complex. And I suffered because of it. And it affected my work. And I'm so thankful that I'm still making music now, and I've learned and I've figured all that out. And it was also a time that we were in where it still just was not quite, people were still scared and they didn't know if it was going to work. but the toning it down thing was, I mean, that to me was like, the minute someone said that to me, it's like, ooh, and you didn't say that to me. Please don't say that to me. Because I've had to fight for years to get to the point that I'm at now. And you're going to take that away? You know, so I don't know what your experience is like with, you know, can you not talk about it as much, or can you not be so gay? You know, I hate that shit.
I mean, I'll just comment on that because, I mean, truly, when you broke out, I mean, it was not the same right now. So the identity crisis I wondered myself as a fan, as somebody watching the show. I mean, how awesome, and like he blew everybody away. People were like, "What the fuck? Who is this kid?" He's off the charts, you know. And then I thought to myself, I wonder how he's dealing with that, because it's stardom. It's at your feet. The whole world is looking at you, and you rolled in. Well, here I am and delivered. But as you just said, talk about stress, talk about identity crisis, all those things, and then for the world, not just like, you know, your friends, your colleagues. It's like, so I mean, I applaud you for diving in.
Thanks.
And staying true. Even though, of course, it was extremely difficult. I mean, you rode the wave. You're still here. You're killing it. And I mean, it's true that if you dig deep and really go back to believing in yourself, because obviously he wasn't on the show because he didn't believe in himself. Obviously, he's got the chops. But it can break you. You know, I'm not an artist, but you know, I'm only commenting from that perspective because I did see that happen with you.
The show was easy compared to the business.
You're like, I got this.
Yeah. Because I was in charge of what I was doing on the show. You know, that was the difference. But, you know, I think I even had like the head of the label who was gay say to me, "Oh, that's too flamboyant." I'm like, what? Like, but first of all, no one's gonna be surprised if I'm being flamboyant. I mean, like, how is that different than what I've been doing? You know, anyway.
Well, I can speak to that in the sense on the outside looking in, or even from, I guess, a clinical standpoint. A lot of people spend a lot of their time projecting their stuff on other people. Simply, you know, these are things that they have insecurities about, and when they see you actually in live play of doing the things that they have been traumatized about, you know, doing, maybe they were doing those things in their head, but when they see somebody in full action right in front of them actually doing this thing, it says bravery, but they haven't necessarily caught up to that. Yeah. And so now they're projecting all of that trauma, all of that backlash, all of the abandonment, all the neglect, all that stuff. And I think all the shame, exactly. And I think people in the world in general experience that. I mean, even when we were talking about fear in those situations, I mean, we were talking upstairs, let me be clear. There are some people that we know that stuff is coming from their trauma, and some, and then there are some people who are just not the greatest people. I'm sorry. There's some bad people out there, and I'm speaking as a clinician. I had to be clear on that, wanting to save everybody. The other thing I wanted to speak to too, because we were speaking about also this being a solution and tool session as well. Is it something about talking or having a conversation about these necessary things, but having things to take home with you, having this tangible deal. Give yourself grace, man. Like,
that's what I finally figured out how to do.
Yes, give yourself grace. I mean, because if you think about it, I know I am constantly evolving and learning new things about myself, and we're not linear people. Right. You know, you may feel like being more flamboyant today than the next album, you know, and that's fine. That doesn't mean you're not being true to yourself. This is just the other version of myself. Yeah. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, give yourself that time to expand and then to retreat. Like, that's what the other part of mental wellness is, that I am well enough to understand that today I can be on and tomorrow I'm not necessarily off. I'm just in this other space, and be good with that.
Yeah. So. Especially as creatives, we need time to recharge, you know? Yeah. Well, I think we should wrap up the hard, the heavy shit. And this is, you know, equally as thoughtful and deep, but I'd like to kind of flip it now and kind of look at the positive experiences that we've had as queer people in this industry, and how amazing it is, and what kind of impact we can have on society. I think, you know, that's my question, is like, how has being a musician, how has this career positively impacted you personally, and how do you think queer artists impact society?
I just think that queer art is in the fabric of art, period. Like, it's everywhere. Ma Rainey is the mother of blues. It's giving queer, you know what I mean? Little Richie, you know, Elton John. Today, Frank Ocean, Sid the Kid, Victoria Monet, Janelle Monáe. I listen to that music and I'm like, yes, these are my people, and it gives me so much courage to tell my story and to live in my body and to, like, you know, take up space, you know? So it gives me a lot of pride. It gives me a lot of pride. And
You're so cool.
thank you. I'll take that.
I'm shy. What about you, Vincent?
Yeah, to hop off of what Brittany just said, is we're the blueprint for a lot of the things that people love in this world, whether it be jazz, blues, rhythm and soul, pop. If you look back at all the people who wrote your favorite pop songs, there's a queer person in the room who has been making sure that you are dancing and feeling everything that you feel. And I think gospel.
Oh, let's keep it real.
We're not gonna open that door today. We're gonna talk about it.
Yeah, let's talk about it. We're gonna keep it real.
It's just, we are in everything that moves and shakes the world, and I think it's a beautiful thing being who we are. We get to stand on stage and illuminate the world and hopefully inspire others to just be themselves, whether they are a part of our community or not. The idea is to stand in a space and just stand as you are and not be afraid of what else comes at you. Being okay with the idea that that's enough. And I think it's a beautiful thing that we get to do all the time. And I sometimes take it for granted. I forget it because life gets tough, for sure. But it's also, what a beautiful thing we get to do, where we get to be in these rooms and we get to make the decisions and make sure that we're taken care of. And so, yeah, who we are and what we represent moves and shakes the world. So, yeah.
And I'll just chime in on that. You know, obviously from not an artist, creative standpoint, performer, but it brings me joy, absolute joy, to see somebody who is like, you know, they've taken themselves and come forward and they're being their authentic self, and then, you know, and they're doing their thing, and they're we're introducing them to the company, and these are all the people you need to meet who are going to help make make your career go where you want. And what I love is when I sense that human side to them, where I know what they're going through. Not because I'm a performer, but I'm a human who's experiencing a similar scenario, or have had that scenario where you got to get up and dance, sing and dance for everybody, so everybody likes you and you can get that deal and all those wonderful things. And I like the opportunity to have gained insight into humanism and to be able to see that. And I love taking people aside if I feel there's an opening. You know, I don't like to overstep my boundaries, but generally if I have a connection or I feel like this person might need a little chat, I'm so blessed to be able to just have a chat on the side and just, you know, tell them, you know what, you are awesome. What you just did in here was brave, and I know your skills are, that's not the question, but you know, you're your authentic self, and be proud of that, and you, and I'm not saying you're not, but embrace it, because that's the journey you're on. You know, our business is about money. Yeah. It's business of money and music.
And what's interesting is that the people that are huge in this industry, the artists that are the most successful, are the ones that people want to know. Because they relate to them, they identify with them. There's something about them. It's beyond the music they're making. It's something that they're being or representing. I mean, there is so much more than just the song now. And I think social media has obviously made a big change in that. You know, we're more invested in who people are and their identity politics than ever. and it sometimes it precedes the song. You know what I mean?
It does. I mean, I can speak to just the impact that the queer community has had on me as someone who doesn't identify as queer. I mean, my prior career was a professional actress and a professional dancer first, dancing for many artists. So I attribute to my connection to the body, and this is so clinical too, because I think part of the first course of action is being very connected to your body when you're talking about anxiety and all of those things, like gifting yourself that connection. Well, to be honest, my connection was learned by the queer community. Because being in theater, being in those spaces where we were blessed to have the room filled with many people that were part of the LGBTQIA, plus community. And that's where I had partners that would constantly allow me to feel connected, because they were maybe, yes, struggling with their own connection, but channeling that in me, and I was like, how can you discriminate against this beautiful community? We are a part of the community. As long as I am living on this earth with y'all, that we are still a part of a community, regardless if we like that or not, And that was the other thing. I was mentioning the whole gospel part. Let's tap a little bit on religion, right? I sat here, I used to be like, most of the songs that we are singing, since we're talking about singers, songwriters and composers as well. Shameless plug, Music Cares just opened a songwriters and composers emotional health support group. That's every Monday. Just to throw that out there. And it just launched on May 1st, so tap into that. But anyway, I'm like, most of the songwriters were a part of that community, and we in the church are singing those songs and have the nerve, not all people in church obviously, but have the nerve to discriminate against the person. So we want your art, but not the person. And that's what I'm hoping that those that do identify will see, that you really do have control over you being in charge of being the human first. Because to wait for other people to do it, you'll be waiting a lifetime. Yeah. Like, you have to come into the room with, I am a whole person. I am a human being. And if that doesn't work for you, then that's fine. But I'm about to move on to the next. And I know that's hard, because we're talking about finances. We're talking about deals. I'm not making light of it or minimizing it. But really, you're going to have to stand up for yourself as a person. Like, look at yourself as a person and not just an artist. Like, that's secondary. Because people are just going to take what they can, leave with it, get the benefits of it, and just leave you empty and drained. And that should not be with anybody. I don't care what we identify as.
That's tea. Also, to piggyback on that, how many people here work in music? Raise your hands. Whether it be like at a company that works in music, how many of you started off just loving music? How many of you played an instrument? Were in choir? I beg of you, if you work in corporate America where it pertains to music, please bring that same passion and artistry into what you do every day with these artists. It's what makes it work. And I feel as though we forget this. I have this thing that I do with my team before every work week starts on Monday. We have a check-in. My agent is very busy, and she has a lot of great clients, and I'm probably one of the ones who brings her the least money, but she hops on this call every Monday, and she checks in, and we don't talk about work. We just talk about life. She has 3 kids. She's married. We talk about how that's going, doctor's appointments. It means something to connect with people on a human basic level. You care more, and you feel cared for, which means you work harder and you worked honestly. And it makes such a difference, because meeting people in these spaces as artists, when we come in, it is the most terrifying thing to walk into a room full of 16 people and hand over your dream or your vision and not be sure if they care about it. It means a lot to come into these rooms and see you and look you in the eye and have you look us back and know that you're okay. So before you go to work on Mondays, just think about that when you go in, and it's like, cool, I'm gonna work on this artist thing, and yeah, they're annoying because they don't get their things in on time or any of that stuff, but it's so important just to be human first in those situations. It makes a world of difference. That's all.
And also for the industry people in the room, don't be afraid to think for yourself a little bit. I know it's so difficult. Like, no one wants to say I like that or I don't like that until the person who's in charge says it. And it's like, I get it. I know that that's the way it works a lot of times. Can't hate player. You gotta hate the game. But man, that gets to me. I'm like, don't forget to feel first. You're thinking too much. Just, do you like the song or not? Does it make you feel good? That's all you need to, that's it. That's all it needs to be. Yeah.
I'm not going to get in trouble because we'll tell your boss that we don't like it. I promise.
That's funny. I just experienced this. I'm not gonna say where, a similar scenario where a situation caught me really off guard, and I'd say there was 50 people, and someone had said something, and they were clearly kind of targeting the person, and I was like, y'all aren't gonna fucking say nothing. I was like, and it was such a very a situation where most people, and they didn't say anything until I did, and I was like, no, that's not okay. Do not corner him because of the power structure dynamic that's happening right here. And I think people just thought I was fucking nuts. and I didn't care, because I was like, I don't give a shit. Because you know what? You're bullying this person because of your power structure dynamic. And I'm not going to sit here and accept it, you know? And so be it. It's like, have fun trying to come after me for that.
So I want to, I think we've had our therapy. It's been good. This is good. I feel so good. It's hot as fuck in here.
I thought it was just me. I was like, wait a minute.
So we're wrapping up here, but I did want to open the floor up here. If anybody has any questions or wants to share anything, I think my last thing I want to say is that if it weren't for queer people, what kind of music would you, what would you have? If you remove queer people from the music industry and from the entertainment industry, there'd be a lot of things that people love that would not exist. Your favorite artists wouldn't look the way they do. They wouldn't have that hair and makeup and that wardrobe the way they do. Your favorite, there's been music. We wouldn't have the fucking Beatles, okay? That music manager was queer as hell. So, I mean, we're all a part of the industry. I'm really glad that we've celebrated that today. Anybody want to ask anything or say anything? Am I the guy that, I'm going to do the thing? I'm like Oprah. Oh, I'm Oprah.
Oh, hi, Adam. Hi, everyone. My name's Danny. I'm a music business student at Los Angeles College of Music. Thank you. I appreciate every single one of you, sharing your experience, strength, and hope. I almost teared up. I'm not going to lie. It's beautiful. But my big question is, as my goal to be a tour manager, what is your experience, if you can be vulnerable, because I'm going to specialize in addiction and mental health on the road. What is your take on how to handle that and your experience around being team members that are probably using on the road? And how do you protect yourself at the same time and your team?
Woo! That is wait.
I mean, I'm just gonna say something here. I mean, I'll tell you. When I was going to South by Southwest every year, and I'd first gone, quite a long time ago. I keep dating myself, but that's okay. I'm still here. And there was a place, and there was rooms. And I remember the person that I was with at the time was like, "Oh, Kris, I gotta go to a meeting." And I'm like, "Oh, we just got here." And she's like, "No, I gotta go." And I go, "Well, where do they have them?" She's like, "Oh no, they're totally set up." And I think Music Cares was behind the ones at South by, and then another room, another place to go. But it was like, you saw everybody performing and then the business people behind them. And then sometimes you'd see, the people, and it could be the tour manager, the lawyer, the artist, the PR person. And everybody be together at these really cool events, drinking or not, or, just being together. And all of a sudden people would just kind of slide out. And there are places everywhere for that. So if in your example, as a tour manager and trying to specialize in that, and being aware of that's such a huge problem for the artists, for everybody around them. There's so much stress. There's so much great stuff too, which sometimes makes you want to party. Well, not everybody is akin to that anymore, and maybe it's not good for them. But I mean, to keep it on an upward trajectory in my words, there is so much help, and it's available. You'll learn that. You're seeing it here. We all go through in all of our industries, whether we're performing or behind the scenes. You just stay true to yourself and tune in to the people that you feel, may need that little extra, hey, you doing all right? And then send them accordingly, just listen to people and have an open heart. And I felt that when I went to South by Southwest and saw that, and it was so interesting. I was like, where'd they go? And I was like, okay, good. So, I mean, just stay true to yourself and your instincts, and get out there and kick ass.
And is there a Music Cares? You were saying there's a, yeah.
I was just going to answer that, so I can answer it quickly because I know there's plenty of other questions that are out there. What she's speaking on is what we call safe harbor rooms. Exactly. Okay, cool. And we're literally in the midst of trying to expand that. One of my amazing colleagues, Carrie, is here. She's a client manager that works directly with our client base as well. I love the work that she does. And the thing is, we're trying to expand it to even that much more of a mental wellness space, right? Because there's still stigma around all of it, mental health and obviously addiction. And there's a lot of people that are not ready to admit that they're suffering from addiction as well. So there are these spaces, these quiet spaces that are allowing people to decompress, allowing people to build a community, allowing people to network, especially in the music industry. It's all about networking, right? Well, why aren't we networking about being in safer spaces or building a safe space within us, right? And I won't officially speak about it, but Music Cares is also building more tools, if you will, specifically for the road. So for touring, I'm also calling it like treatment plans, if you will, right? That are obviously more broad-based, so they're not necessarily individualized, but we're still gathering the data from music industry professionals and what is it that you specifically need. Some of the needs are different because of the pressure, because of the business side. So just know that the work that you're doing or the education that you're getting, you getting that paper and then being able to get the experience in the music industry is going to be so beneficial for you because you'll be able to educate people while being a whole human at the same time and providing services as they're healing us in the process, but while they're on the road, because you can, 1 minute they're in Detroit and the next minute they're in Zimbabwe. Right? So now there's apps. I know there's apps out there now that are showing people, hey, you're in this particular location. This is a safe group, or this is an AA group, or this. Yeah. So it's out there. It's just, I think we have to do a better job as industry professionals and people specifically working in mental health within the industry professionals. We need to get that much more out there. And we're doing that. So thank you for getting the formal education in this.
Do you have any more questions? Oh, I'm into this. I feel like Springer or something. Oh, too soon.
He's got to show off those boots.
Hi, I'm Jared. Vincent's one of my good friends. Adam is a good friend. Hello, everybody else. So my question is, I'm an artist, and this is something that I deal with, and for whoever feels like they have an answer that's relevant, please feel free to dive in. But something that I struggle with is simultaneously feeling empowered by my queer identity, but also feeling somewhat limited from people who view me as a niche because I'm queer and almost can't see past, like, oh, that's a queer artist, as opposed to just, oh, that's an artist. And so my question is, as music industry professionals, how do you navigate simultaneously feeling empowered while also being able to stand as an individual who's not just a niche?
Well. I think it's a tough space to navigate, speaking quite frankly, because I do think that queer artists get put into boxes. I actually take it upon myself a lot to put on events and stuff that bring on my community as artists, but also diversifies lineups. I make spaces where people from all walks of life can share their art and share who they are, so it doesn't feel like a checked box, and that's sort of the way that I approach it. I don't know if that's helpful or not.
I think the narrative is that the idea that we have to break out of our community to be popular, and I've had that conversation with my team, and my team, and my manager, and we've all sat, we've sat and they've been like, well, this year we're gonna start to shift out of prides. I have spoken with and been privileged to speak with so many iconic queer artists who are well into their 70s and 80s and who live lavishly. I think the idea that breaking out of our community is some kind of it's holding us back, and that's the narrative that's being pushed. Yep. You could live an amazing, glorious life just playing prides. You could do all these things sticking in your community, and I think mainstream is an idea. It's radio, and it cost damn near $1 million to get a single put through radio.
It's also a dying idea.
It's a dying idea.
Because everything is in little boxes now.
Yeah.
Everybody has these little lanes that they're in. Social, I'm this, I'm that, I'm that. And yes, there's some crossover, but I think it's like, be the niche.
Yeah.
Be it. Because if you're a niche and enough people love you, it eventually organically can turn into something else.
There's power in it. There's so much more power in
Yeah.
sticking to your individuality than trying to fix or change something. And both of those words sound yucky even saying. Like, sure, do you want to get on like Pop Crave? That'd be nice. You have enough friends. Like, you've seen what I've done. You were here after I did my first show at Hotel Cafe and there were 2 people. No one has supported me more than the queer community. And as much as I would love to be like, I'd love to be doing main stage things and playing, I've played golf ball. That wasn't because some mainstream person was like, today I like this. It was solely because you and all my other friends were like, hi, have you heard this song? And your friends push you and your community pushes you. And then when shit gets tough in mainstream, like it does for every mainstream artist, you have your community to go back to. So I would not ever recommend stepping away from who it is and what it is that you do so well, because people want to be like us.
That's true.
The whole idea is there are artists out there trying to find ways to be unique. It's the reason they all sound and look the same. It's the reason why when they look at you, they go, whoa, how are they doing that? What you have to offer to the world and what you give them in your music and the way that you present yourself to the world, people would kill for that. Don't ever think that the idea of becoming mainstream is going to change your life in some way. If anything, it's just going to bring more stupid people into your world. You have a community who stands behind you, so I wouldn't try to... Yeah, it's not worth it.
And being in that niche gives you more freedom, because then you're faced with less challenges of how to be mainstream. I mean, my journey was going straight to the mainstream in Middle America, and I didn't have the gay fan base. Most of my fans are moms, and I love them. I fucking love the moms. They're great. They're awesome fans. But I'm in the opposites. I'm sitting here trying to like, how do I get back to my community? How do I become part of my own? How do I match my personal life to what I do? So it's never perfect. Yeah.
I did a TV show and I was in a suit. When have you ever known? You were there. You've never seen me in a suit. They wanted me to sing R&B songs and I was like, babe, can I? Sure. Do I? No. Yeah. And it's cool to be out there and cool to be seen. But there's nothing better than when you go into a Pride and you walk on stage and everyone's like, yo, I know who that is. And I love what they do. sure, it's harder to break through those things, and it's cool to be there. And I'm sure someday we will all be there, and it'll be amazing and la-di-da-di-da-di-da. But you can have that now in the community that we're in, if that helps.
Yes. Yes, you have a question.
I do. So first of all, I just want to say to you, I'm sorry, I didn't get your name. Jared, boundaries. You get to set them. You get to set them, and it's a beautiful thing, and you practice it, and then it becomes really easy to say, hell no, I'm not doing that. This is who I am, and I like it. And we love it. So I just wanted to encourage you with that. Set boundaries, because we all need to do that. So I'm a licensed marriage family therapist, and a whole lot of stuff with that. But, and I'm also an artist. And I get the privilege of being the person who, facilitates the singer-songwriter emotional support group. And it's an honor, and I want to thank Janak for that. It is a huge honor. I never made it to the big stage because I was like really very scattered, but this is an honor to be able to work with people whom I love. And I just want to say that one of the things that I am excited about Music Cares because they are seeking out therapists who are not mainstream, who are walking away from what we've been taught in school, and that we have to deal with people in a specific kind of way. I'm a therapist. I work with people who look like me, and in school I didn't learn how to do that. In school, they told me, you cannot take pictures of your family off of the... You try talking to a black person and they ask you a question and you say, I'm sorry, I cannot disclose that. They're out the door so fast. And I learned even in that we're more alike than we are different. And so I think that one of the things that I want to advocate for, and I know that Janak does too, is changing that stuff in the schools, because people come out and they don't know how to deal with human beings, because we are taught that our clients are Anglo-Saxon, white, Protestant people. I don't see very many of them. They go on Psychology Today and they say her, because why? Because I look like I look. And when they come to my office, I don't wear suits either, and so I don't look like what they think you're supposed to look like. And so I just want to say that it is important that we make noise, like Music Cares is making noise, like your foundation is making noise, so that we can change the colleges that are teaching people the wrong thing to come out here, because I promised I would not see the rich white lady who is in therapy because her husband took her credit cards. That's not my interest. That's not what I do. So I want to talk to people who have a need. And so I appreciate so much what you guys are doing. Thank you, darling, for the opportunity to get to do what I love to do. And so just boundaries. Thank you.
I think we got one time for one more question, and then we can drink and keep talking, one-on-one. Hello. Who? You wanted to ask a question.
Hello. Firstly, I want to say thank you so much for sharing your stories. It's been amazing, so inspiring. I only landed in LA about five hours ago, but we did a big talk in the UK yesterday about Mental Health Awareness Week and anxiety, which is amazing. But what we're struggling to do is talk so openly like you guys are. So I think that's absolutely amazing. So I am. I literally am. I literally am. But just a little bit about me. Like I am an actor, and I'm a TV actor from the UK, and I came out when I was 27. I'm 33 now, but I wanted to come out in my 20s, early 20s to be honest. But what I didn't do it because I didn't feel like I had a space to do it, and I just plodded along for many, many years, just being somebody else, to be honest. And it wasn't me until I got to a point where I was like, I can't do this anymore. But I just want to say, look, with you guys, thank you so much for sharing your stories. It's absolutely amazing. But in those moments where you doubt yourself, as queer people, we we come out or we be our authentic selves, and sometimes we struggle with it. And for me, like when I came out in the UK, it was quite hard because it took me years. But you have them moments where you doubt yourself, and you have them moments where you know, your anxiety takes over because you are now being the person that you want to be. But you also worry about how other people see you and how people think of you. And in the UK, for me, it's hard. Like we're very British and we're very judgmental, and sometimes we're not as accepting as we'd like to be. But you lot are so inspiring, and do you know what? I'm so glad that I've seen this tonight, because we're staying here, but I didn't know this event was on. So thank you so much, and Adam, thank you so much. Like I literally did a panel yesterday in the UK just before I came here, but it wasn't as inspiring as this. So thank you so much. My question is, like, in the moments where you doubt yourself, or in the moments where you kind of second guess yourself, or moments where you feel like you can't cope, how do you guys do that? How do you get through that? Like, do you have coping mechanisms where you kind of have the moments where you obviously you doubt what you've done, and you doubt like being this person in front of everyone, especially in the music industry, and for me in the acting industry, because we're on a platform where we're quite vulnerable and people see us, like it's almost even worse sometimes. So how do you do that? Like, what are your coping mechanisms? Because for me, as someone in the UK, seeing this tonight has just been amazing. So if you got any like tips, or the way you cope with things, like all of you, like I'd love to hear.
Some tools. First of all, release the pressure. I don't know why we think we're supposed to have the answers every day. That's the biggest thing right there. The healthiest coping mechanism that I've just learned, I mean, just in full disclosure, is, Janok, today you may not know the answers, and that's fine. I believe, if I say the universe be universing, right? That if we were supposed to be on this earth by ourselves, the universe is quite genius enough to have put us on separate planets. That did not happen. That's what community is for. This is what we are all for. These are my folks over there. Sometimes I don't have the answer. They do that day. That's the whole point. So first, start off with releasing that pressure. If you are doubting yourself in that moment, I'm not saying stay in the doubt, but give yourself permission to be unsure at that moment. Because you also have evidence of days that you've been very, very sure. So this is temporary. This is just a moment. And then let that moment go past. And then you'll be back in that confidence probably an hour later or the next day. But the more that you keep sitting in, why don't I know this? How come I don't have the answer? It just lingers. And that's when anxiety builds. Anxiety is married to that mess. Yes. Okay? So just be okay with, right now I don't know. But I do have evidence that I knew before. So I'm going to catch back up again. Yeah.
I mean, I'll just say she's so spot on. I mean, in life, I think we all experience that, no matter if we're a performer, we're behind the scenes, we're, again, it's back to that human word. It's one day at a time, and sometimes it's 1/15 second of a minute. And to just, deep breathing, I learned meditation, mindfulness, yeah. TM. I learned TM later in life, but before that I did a lot of biofeedback. Before anybody was talking about it, like out in the open. But sometimes you find yourself where you're like, oh, you gotta be kidding me. Like, this is not happening. I'm so freaking stressed out. Like, I just can't do this. And then you're like, yes, you can. Yes, you can. She said it'll pass. It always passes. It might pass quicker than others, but if you just dig down deep, and for me, it's the serenity prayer. Saves my life. Saves my life. Sometimes I say it 30 times a day in my head. I might be walking down a hallway and I'm freaking stressed out. Somebody up top is freaking out. I'm like, can you calm the fuck down? I'm like, if I'm not telling you the answer, it's because there's no answer yet. Relax. Yeah. You know I'm going to give it to you, but sending me 13 texts in 24 minutes, all that does is cause me anxiety. You're projecting on me. And I'm like, brother, calm the fuck down. You know, and I have to remind myself, I can't take that on, but I do. And so I literally tell myself in my brain, the Serenity Prayer, I'm not kidding, all the time. And I remind myself that it's going to be okay. And you're okay. Yes, God grant me the serenity to accept the change that cannot change. And the wisdom to know the difference. Please. Keep coming back. It works if you work it. It works if you work it.
And my response to that is just also amongst all those other things is focus on the work. Focus on the thing that you're making. Try to tune out some of the. It's hard to like try to take all that on. Just focus on what you make. It's actually more simple than we think it is. I'll just do the thing and just do it and enjoy it. You know, and that unfortunately is all the time we have questions for today. We have to wrap it up because we've kind of like we only got so much time in here. And I unless you're suffering from addiction, let's drink.
Thank you again, Adam. You are freaking amazing.
Thank you. Thank you all for coming. Thank you so much. Thanks for learning more about Music Cares, Feel Something Foundation. We love you. Thank you so much.